Buenos dias. This past week, I reached 1,500 hours of comprehensible input. I started in January of 2022, so it's taken me exactly 3 years to get this far. Over the past year, I've averaged 90 minutes of comprehensible input every day. For me, comprehensible input has succeeded where other methods that I have tried in the past failed. So that's why I'll continue with the comprehensible input in the future. The biggest benefit for me for comprehensible input was the comprehension, obviously. I can now watch Spanish videos and I understand 80 to 90% of what's being said. This would not have happened with other methods of learning Spanish. That being said, I believe the Dreaming Spanish roadmap is overly optimistic. At 1,500 hours, I am nowhere near being fluent. I actually just started speaking. So for me, it'll probably be 3,000 hours before I'm anywhere near being fluent in Spanish. At this level, my comprehension continues to increase, but as those of you who do comprehensible input know, it's hard to quantify from day to day the improvements. I continue to do CrossTalk twice a week with my friend in Madrid. I've not been reading as much as I would like this last 100 hours, so I need to up my game in the coming year. I'm continuing to watch native Spanish videos that interest me. Only about 20% of my time now has been watching Dreaming Spanish videos. One of the recent YouTube improvements is that you can fine-tune the speed of the videos. So before it was only 25%, 50%, 75%, like 125. Now you can adjust it finer. So if I'm watching a difficult video, I'll adjust the speed down to about 90%, and this helps with my comprehension, and still the speaker's voice sounds normal. It doesn't sound weird as when you slow it down to 75%. I'm starting to speak now in Spanish. I've been using different approaches to do this. One thing I do is to speak out loud about what I'm doing during the day, just my normal day-to-day activities. And if I don't know a word, then I'll look it up and then I write it down in my list of daily words that I frequently use. So this basically marks the transition from my passive vocabulary, which I've received from comprehensible input, to a more active vocabulary, which would be the words that I use to speak on a daily basis. I was nervous about starting to speak, but I found it's easier than I thought. Many of the words that I need pop into my head naturally on their own. If I don't remember a word, then I try to speak around it using other words. I believe this is called circumlocution. I do not count the time that I practice speaking as part of my comprehensible input. So since I'm speaking more, my comprehensible input times this year will probably be reduced. I found a YouTube channel recently called Tony Marsh. Tony was a U.S. military language instructor, and his approach is different than comprehensible input, but I think it's very helpful when starting to speak. He believes that conversation is the key to language learning. So his approach primarily is taking a everyday statement and changing it into a question and answer so you can practice conversation. The following picture is an example of this method. You can change the tense of the verbs that you're learning for additional practice. So you can see in the picture how he breaks that statement down into a yes-no question and then an open-ended question. And you basically fill in the blanks. You can add whatever tense that you're interested in working with too. So my goals for this year is to spend at least 2 hours a day on my Spanish. I'm going to work on my speaking and continue comprehensible input for at least 1 hour a day and continue doing CrossTalk as well. I also want to do more reading this year. So that's about it for my 1500 hour update. I'll see you again at 1600 hours. Hasta luego.